everybody. Desi has a couple of announcements. Hi, Emma. Good to see you. We haven't seen you in a while.
I know. Look at everyone. How awesome.
Hi, Cheryl. Good to see you. Hi, Brett. Hi, Jim. What's up? What's up, Alicia? Great to see you. Patricia, great to see you. Linda, you look marvelous, darling.
Thank you. Going to the Mouse House soon.
Yes, looking marvelous.
Awesome. Awesome. I think everyone is looking great today. So good to be here. I'm super excited. So yes, I'm going to I'll let Kim talk a little bit more about a winner. Do we have a winner?
A winner chicken dinner. So announcements for today's Coffee Connection. Winner of the August members only, hint, hint, members only, for the desk nightstand charger is, drum roll please, the one, the only curling champion, Brenna Duncan. Woo!
Brenna.
Winner, winner.
Congratulations.
Sign of the time.
In a while. You're a winner.
You can charge your phone.
Oh, it's a much needed
Desk and nightstand charger.
See, we have winners among us. Isn't that
That's
awesome?
right. Thank you so much to Women in Drones for always blessing us with great things that we can win on. Like, it's just really cool that you can come on, go to a networking meeting and win something.
Yes.
Right?
So we do have a couple other announcements, and I have to say, and I kind of started sharing a little bit earlier this morning when I was going through the announcements and what was going to be said and looking at our spotlight speaker, I was just feeling really, really blessed about where we've come, who is here joining us, and the amazing things that Women in Drones is doing and the opportunities we have. So I'm just really grateful that we get this time together, because networking is so important and it helps us grow. And so I was feeling a little warm and fuzzy, sorry, but it was
You're allowed.
excited. It's like, oh,
we need warm and fuzzy in this world. Come on.
Yeah.
Warm and fuzzy.
It is. It's so cool to think about all the great things. So we have another opportunity and other stuff coming up with Women in Drones. So I want to do a real quick announcement about another members only promotional that we're going to be doing. Do you remember Kimberly Penn? Was she not?
Yes.
Awesome? Yes. Well, we have a giveaway that we are doing right now that she is going to, it's for members only, and it's free one-on-one 60-minute small visit consulting with Kimberly Penn. And there's 3 of these that we're going to be giving away. So I'm going to give you a link for that one so you can sign up for that. That's so cool. She's amazing. And then we have another one on the lines of mapping, which is kind of neat. We have a promotional for drone deploy. And if you enter in the sweepstakes for their virtual conference, it's a resume sweepstakes again. And so I will give you a link for that one, and you upload your resume and you're in for a chance to win on that one as well. Isn't that incredible? It's perfect for, we're talking about mapping today, right? And so I'm going to use that. I will put all of those links into our chat, and that way you'll have them. And then I also think that's a perfect segue to the amazing guest speaker that we have for today. And it's really been so great that Douglas has been here many times for us to share, and today he will be here to share about mapping. And I know there's a lot of questions about mapping, and it's a much deeper subject than we can actually cover in just this short amount of time, but it's great that he's here to share and give us just some of that surface information. And Jennifer's also on board. She's going to be putting some information in for us so that you can connect with them later as well. So with that, Douglas, Spotted Eagle, thank you so much once again for being here, sharing with us on Coffee Connection.
It's absolutely my pleasure. I absolutely love interfacing with the people from Women in Drones. You have such an amazing joy to be with, I guess. You know, there's a wonderful, wonderful spirit about this particular group, and it's entirely opposite of many of the other aircraft groups or drone groups that are out there. So thanks for having me. I'm going to just dive right into mapping. This is something that a lot of people ask about. I'm going to start off by showing you a couple of different kinds of maps that are 3D maps as opposed to orthos, because that seems to be the real topic. I'm not sure why, but a lot of people are emailing. We probably receive at least 4 to 5 emails a week from people asking about 3D, what they call 3D mapping, which is actually modeling, not so much mapping. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples of some things here that are relevant to this conversation. So we're going to start off by looking at, what's the wrong screen? Hang on, there we go. So this is a 3D map that was captured using a technique called nadir. And I'm going to have Jennifer send you over a mapping guide. You should be seeing that come up in your chat in just a moment. This mapping guide that you're about to receive is very much a work in progress. It's not ready for public release, but I decided last night we're going to go ahead and share it with the Women in Drones group, because I know that y'all won't share it out on the internet, right? So that being said, let's dive into what we're looking at here. So this map that this model that you're seeing right here, this is a home in a subdivision that is in the process of being built up. And this type of a nadir map is captured with the camera pointing straight down, what we refer to as a nadir. And this is why you don't see any information when you start looking into the front ends of the home or the facades of this home that's being built, because it's a straight down shot. Then we have something over here, which is exactly the same home. And what's happened here is, instead of using a straight, what we call nadir, and I'll go into what that is in just a moment. But instead of using a straight nadir, we've got the camera at a bit of a pitch, and you can see that there's a tremendous amount of noise in what we call the point cloud here. This is information that is being captured from the sky, and it's information that we never want to have in a map. But you can see the difference in quality of output when it comes to things like the facades. So why is it that we'd even talk about how these maps function, or why is this important? Well, first off, we need to know exactly what we're going to be dealing with before we set out on this mission. We have to have our deliverables, our final output and component in mind before we go down this road. Otherwise, we're just heading for disaster, and we might not be able to deliver our client or create our own deliverables to do what we want. So we're going to take a step back now that you've seen a 3D model, which is what, like I say, a lot of folks have asked about. And here is what we call an ortho. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. We're going to convert this, look at this in an ortho. You're seeing these in Pix4D Cloud. What this means is I process these images on my desktop, and then I uploaded them as complete images to the Pix4D cloud site. So this is an ortho, and this is what most of our clients are going to be asking for, is for this ortho, or this final output of a two-dimensional flattened map that is ortho rectified. That's where that term ortho comes from. So what does that mean? Well, our camera lenses have a curve, and so does the curve of the Earth. So one of the things that we need to do is we need a software that can compensate for the curve of the camera lens and the curve of the Earth, and it rectifies, it repairs those curves, and it brings things flat. We have to start from flat if we want to be able to measure anything. So that's the first thing that needs to be done, is we need to rectify or ortho rectify the data that's coming out of our cameras. So that's an important piece to this whole puzzle. Now, every drone, every camera system has a slightly different curve, has its own distortions. There may be some other problems with it. So let's talk for just a second about choosing drones for mapping. I know a lot of people out there have got something like this one here. So this is a Mavic Mini. I have this one set up for handheld use indoors with a handheld gimbal system, but this is not suitable for mapping. I know if you read in some of the forums out there, people talk about it all day long. Well, yes, you can automate this aircraft, and you can somewhat create a map, but all it is a visual reference. It cannot be used for any degree of measurement or accuracy because of the way the pixel count works and so forth. So it's going to be grossly inaccurate when we work with it. Then we have something that's a little bit more industry standard. We have the Phantom 4. I'm sure that there's some of you that have got this. This particular unit is okay for mapping if you're just doing general mapping and you don't care with having really tight, precise measurements, but you just simply need to capture a map of an area, that this is going to be just fine. If you're serious about mapping, you're going to want to look into something a little bit more like this. This is the Autel Evo2 Rtk. DJI has got an RTK version available, and there are RTK versions available at a variety of prices. The RTK is this hi-hat antenna that you see here on the front of the aircraft. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time going into what RTK is, because that could take us all day. Let's just talk about the fact that we have a network system, it's called Ntrip or Spyder Net, that sends data to the drone while in flight, that creates very precise positioning that can, in the best of circumstances, get us just under 1 centimeter of accuracy. Most of the time, we're going to be in a 2 to 3 centimeters of accuracy range. So your variables are going to be about this far off. Now, if you're, again, just mapping, or you're doing measurements on a construction site, some of these kinds of things, then that kind of accuracy is fine. If you are a surveyor, a PLS, or a civil engineer, or a CEIT, any of these kinds of things, that kind of accuracy probably isn't going to work for you. So you're going to be blending technologies between what the aircraft can capture and what some other tools on the ground can capture. Again, don't want to spend too much time talking about this. Let's come back to our deliverables that we're seeing here. So this is a measurable area. And in fact, we can go in, you can see one of my targets right here in the center of the screen. It's going to take just a second to resolve and be clean for you. There we go. So this is measurable, where if we want to go in and we want to measure sections, we'll drop a point dead center in our ground control right here. And we can take that and measure over to the concrete wall that's here. We can see that's 24.6 feet. So we've got a nice accurate measurement that's there, and that can be stored off in Pix4D Cloud. We can store it off in our Pix4D area. But how did we build this map? How did we actually get there? So the first thing that we need to talk about is how we fly and how our maps are created. So we're going to turn to the Autel Evo Explorer here in just a second. One thing I want to point out is you can see that I've got a tablet behind me here. I'm not a person that works with my tablet mounted on my controller. First off, it's out of balance. Second of all, it's just something I don't want to stand there and hold for 30 minutes, or in the case of an Autel Evo for 40 minutes. I want to have it off to the side. So what I've done is I've got a tablet that's mounted on a typical camera tripod. This can go anywhere with me. I have it attached to my controller via a 20-foot tether. And this allows me as the pilot to be able to turn. I can look different directions. I don't have to worry about the tablet weighing out on my hands, or being heavy on my hands. So this is, for me, a better way to work. It also allows me to turn the tablet away from angles of the sun that I would not always have the ability to do. Now, real quick, while we've got this map open, let me also explain the difference between Mapper and a tool like React. Some of you may have attended my recent webinar on React. React is a tool that is designed only for making two-dimensional images. Let's cut back to where there Pix4D there, and I got out of my line. I was describing, not realizing I was on screen. Needless to say, so Pix4D Mapper is designed for creating very precise, very accurate models and maps, 2D maps or ortho maps. Pix4D React can only do ortho. It cannot do 3D modeling or three-dimensional modeling. React is significantly faster. So for example, this housing subdivision that you're looking at right here that's being built, this is about a 3.5 hour render process on the computer, where React could probably assemble this in 8 to 10 minutes. So React is designed as a fast, or what we call a rapid mapping tool. It's an amazing tool if all you need to output is orthos, references. So if you're doing construction work, it's a way of doing progress reports, etc. Mapper is really more of a tool that's going to be interfacing with various construction tools, architect CAD tools, and other types of tools that are used in civil engineering. So they are quite different in that regard. So the first thing that we're going to do here, I just had one other question come up, and you're welcome to go ahead and keep asking questions over the chat. So the question was, one of the questions is do I recommend Autel versus DJI for RTK? I can't make a recommendation one way or the other. Particularly, I'll tell you the differences is that the Autel comes in at about $4,000, $3,999. It's got the same type of RTK system built onto it as you're going to find in the DJI RTK. We have the Autel Rtk for a couple of reasons. First of all, this camera, in my opinion, is superior to what DJI is offering in terms of color and output. This is not a global shutter. There's a myth that you can't use non-global shutter cameras for mapping, and you absolutely can. The maps you just saw are from a non-global shutter camera. I like the $4,000 price range of this one versus the $7,000 price range or price of the Phantom 4 Rtk. Phantom 4 Rtk, same aircraft as the one I'm holding, except it's got an Rtk puck on the top. So I can't say that one's better than the other. We like Autel because it doesn't have any no-fly zones. In other words, we don't have to contact somebody in China to give permission to fly our aircraft here in the United States. So that's kind of a big deal, you know, for us, especially given that we live in a state that is over 80% federal lands. But let's get back to our mission planning tool here, so we can talk about how to plan out a mission. So here I've got a mission that's set up, or I'm going to set up a mission on screen. We've got two fairly large lots here where development is going to be done. And so one of the things I want to do is I want to create a map. So we're going to go into the Explorer, open up mission. We're going to tell, we want to do a polygon mission. There we are, right back to where we were just a moment ago. And so there's our two fields where we have some area that needs to be mapped out. Now in this particular area, we've got a couple of homes where the homeowners do not want the drone flying over their home. Legally, they don't have anything to say about it. Being a nice neighbor, we're going to do our best to observe their request. So I'm going to show you how we do this. If you're using Autel Explorer, it's not terribly different than Lychee or Datapilot or some of the other apps out there. We're going to click on Create Project. And this opens up a grid. The first thing I'm going to do is take this grid all the way out to the four corners of these two area sections. And this is my first tip for you on mapping, is that we want to get this in so that we have got about 20% overlap over top of our corners. Excuse me, 10% overlap on our corners. That means we're going to get slightly out over the street. That's not going to be a problem because we're not going to be flying over the street itself, but our camera angles will incorporate that. The next thing we need to do is do carve outs. We need to cut these out so that we're going to observe what our neighbors have asked us to do. So I'm just very quickly creating some cutouts here so that I can ensure that my aircraft isn't overflying their home. You can see how I'm setting this up to cut out their homes or their lots in this area here. And we don't have to be horribly precise because remember, we've got a fairly wide angle camera, and we'll talk about some of the other aspects of this in just a second. I need to do another carve out here. And we'll add one more here. Oops, I accidentally moved my entire map. So we're going to move this piece right here over just a little bit. I'm not used to doing this on my tablet so much anymore. There you go. And we'll bring this whole corner and this corner over here. And this allows us to miss this very last property. There we go. Now I've got a complete carve out. So I'm missing all the land the neighbors don't want me to hit. Now, if you look in this upper right-hand corner up here, it's going to, in just a second, tell me how long this is going to take to map. But I need to set this up for time. So we're going to click on edit. We're going to set this up to map. Now, currently it's at 197 feet. That's way too high for what I need to achieve. My client is going to require that I hit what's called a GSD. So let me take just a second to explain what GSD is. GSD is ground sample distance. Ground sample distance is resolution. So when you take a photograph with your cell phone, you know that if you stand back, take a picture of it, it's going to be a fairly wide angle. And then you can use the zoom tool to zoom in. But when you zoom in, you're making pixels bigger. That means that those pixels now are not conformed to a standard size, makes it harder to measure. So what do? Instead of using the zoom tool, we walk closer to our subject where we can. That's exactly what we're doing with GSD, or the ground sample distance, is getting the aircraft closer to the Earth. Ideally, we're going to be looking for a ground sample distance that is going to be in the 0.4, 0.5 range centimeters per pixel. That's going to give us the best view overall of what our scene is going to be, and it gives us tremendous accuracy when we're working with a tool like Pix4D. So I'm going to bring us back to our screen here so that we're seeing what's going on there. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to modify this to take it down a little bit in altitude. So instead of 197 feet here, I'm going to set this map up to where I'm going to fly at We're gonna set this up at say 75 feet, done. And at 75 feet, it tells me that I've got a 0.229 centimeters per pixel. That's not bad. That might be a little too tight. What am I looking at here in terms of time and flight? It's hard to see over the screen share here, but this mission is going to take 60 minutes. It's going to capture 3,000 images between the two lots. So it's going to take it just a little while for it to be able to come together. So we're going to change this altitude just a little bit to make this mission slightly more efficient. Let's take this up to 100 feet and watch what that does to my overall mission here. There we go, we're at 100 feet. That changes our mission to 42 minutes, so that's almost one battery, and it's 1,544 pictures. So that's a lot of pictures, but that's what it's going to take to be able to do a good map of this roughly 5 acres that we're dealing with right here. So this gives us some opportunity to look at what we're doing. Needless to say, this is going to be an ortho map. We're only going to be looking straight down at the Earth. If we were going to be doing a 3D model, we would be adding what we call a cross grid, or there's various names for it, but most of the time it's called lawnmower pattern or cross grid. So we're going to go ahead and turn on the dual grid or the cross grid. It's hard to see on screen here. Let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit. Unfortunately, Apple does not translate to a big screen real well. You can see we've got a lot of data points right there. Now, all of a sudden, we're talking about an 83-minute mission, and it's going to capture 3,100 pictures. So if you don't need that dual grid, and if you're just simply doing orthos, you do not need to do dual grid. Go ahead and leave that turned off. We're right back to our 40-minute flight time. If we wanted to push this a little more, we could push this into a single battery mission pretty easily. Currently, our GSD on this one, our ground sample distance is 0.42. So let's try elevating that to 125. There we go. And at 125 feet, now we're at 34-minute mission. That's one battery easily, and that's 1,000 images. So here's something we've done. I'm going to just do one last thing on this screen here. We need to talk about wind. We need to know the direction the wind is coming from, and when we know where the direction of the wind is coming from, we never fly directly into the wind or tail into the wind. We do not want to hit direct headwind. We do not want to have a direct crosswind. So as we're setting this up with our aircraft, one of the things we want to do is, instead of, if we had a wind that was blowing directly toward me from the camera that you're seeing me on, we would not fly the aircraft this way. We would instead fly the aircraft diagonally. We want the wind coming in on the one of the beams of the arm, or in other words, on the angle of one of the arms. Doesn't matter if it's a DJI or if it's an Autel, we want to bring that wind in. So that way we're crabbing the wind. We call that crabbing the wind. And this makes sure that we have equal wind pressure on the aircraft throughout the entire flight. So that's pretty important. All right, now we're set up for our ortho mission there. And this is the kind of output that we're going to get. But let's have a look at a couple of other things. I mentioned the word nadir. And so I want to show you what these look like, or what this looks like. So here's a shot where we've got the aircraft. You can see the camera pointing straight down. That is what we call a nadir image. This is shooting straight down at the ground. Now here in the middle, we have what is called an oblique. This means that we're capturing the object from the sides. And this is a fairly high oblique. When we're mapping, we generally want to shoot an oblique run that is either the same height as the nadir run, or at greater than half the height of the nadir run. So if we fly our nadir at say 100 feet, we want to be sure that our obliques are not lower than 50 feet. It creates mathematical problems. So without going into the detail, we'll just say that whatever the altitude is of the first run, make sure your second run is not less than 50% of whatever that last run was. And then last but not least, we can cut that in half again. And if we do that, now we can shoot more to the side, and this gives us more side images. That's what it's going to take to be able to fill in the holes that you were seeing in this image a moment ago when it was in 3D mode. So the holes that you can see right here would be filled in if we shot that at a low angle. Oops, wrong screen. There we go. Okay, so let's go back and look at that oblique versus nadir. There we go. Okay, so these are these are the three types that we're going to work with. Now, one of the things that we also want to work with is what we call our single terrain flight. If we've got multiple terrain areas,
Did we lose Douglas?
No, he's here. Sorry about that. I had someone step into the room and I muted and failed to unmute. My apologies. So this-
All right, welcome back.
This would be a single terrain flight that you have right here. This is a bad idea. What ends up happening, we just talked about ground sample distance. Well, we're going to have a very high sampling distance here. In other words, low resolution images. And we're going to have very, very high resolutions right here. And they won't match too well. So how is it that we manage terrain flights? Well, unfortunately, this means we're going to have to fly multiple times. So here's how we're going to manage multiple terrain. We do have some aircraft that can handle terrain following. In fact, many of them do today. And this can work pretty well. It's very inefficient on motors and batteries, but it can be done this way. And this way we've set up an equidistant height or altitude above our flying area. And this is going to work for us. So now we'll talk really quickly about the angles of our cameras. So I mentioned a moment ago that here we have, this would be a nadir angle. In other words, the camera is pointing straight down at the ground. And if we have what is called an oblique angle, then what we're going to see is that camera angle. And that camera angle can vary anywhere between 20% and 75%, just depending on the altitude at which we're flying and the amount of data that we're trying to capture. The one thing we want to make sure that we never do here, never get sky in your images. That blue in the sky will absolutely chew up your computer processing time and give you a pretty good sized mess when it comes time to clean up what we call the point cloud. So we want to avoid dealing with that. So when you're setting up your oblique angles, make sure that your oblique angles are not capturing sky. That would be really important. So coming back again to a couple of other looks here, as we're dealing with the orbits and the grids, I want to show you how we did a pretty big project here. So this is a very large project. This is a school that had some areas of highlights. And what you're seeing here is the yellow lines are representing nadir flight. The camera is pointing straight down. This also represents images in the flight. And then the pink that you see, these are orbits. So these orbits are capturing my oblique shots. They're flying circles around the object. And as they're flying those circles around the object, what ends up happening is that it's capturing pictures from the sides. So this gives us that beautiful oblique or those side fills. I'm going to go to one last web page real quickly here and give you an idea of what that's going to come, how that's going to come out and look. You'll notice I'm using these live off the web. So what you're seeing here is a school that is being built, and in this particular case with the blueprints that are overlaid on the school. But we can look at this in a model mode and watch what happens with because of the obliques that were captured. You can take just a moment for the model load. But because there are obliques that were captured, look how well the facades of the buildings are filling in. They're filling in very, very nicely. Let's convert that to HD. It's going to take a minute for that to build up and render, but you can see instead of having the holes that we had before, now we've got pretty solid imagery all the way around. Now, we don't very often use these kinds of models in any kind of construction or engineering workflow. These are mostly for visualizations. We're seeing this render up in the background. It's getting cleaner as we watch it. But most of the time, we're going to be dealing with two-dimensional maps. That's what our clients usually want. That's the output they're looking for, unless they're looking for something that's going to be used for purposes of non-measurement. So anything that's going to be measured, we're not going to use a model. This is mostly for marketing. It's mostly for bragging rights, that kind of a thing. So just be aware that your customers are almost never going to want these kinds of 3D models. On occasion they will, but I'm going to run back to this. You can see as it's rendering in the background, it's still cleaning up. So we can see a very clear pile of dirt that's happening right here. We're seeing the trucks come up. This takes a bit because you're seeing it live on the web. If we're on a local computer, it'd come together, quite a bit faster. And last but not least, I want to take just a second to talk about Rtk connectivity, and I'll open up the floor to questions after that. So what you're seeing here, it's a little hard to see, but this is an Autel Evo2 Rtk unit. This is what is called an MLID base station. This MLID base station is a tool that what the base station does is it receives corrections from multiple satellites, typically between 20 and 28 satellites. And because it's receiving so much satellite data, it's able to create a very precise, what we call a fixed position. So it knows exactly where it is at a given moment in time. Further, if we want to support that, or if we want to have a check system, we can also connect it to what is called the Spyder Network or an Entrant network. This is only available in areas where we have LTE or Wi-Fi. We can't have an Entrant network out in the middle of nowhere where there's no Wi-Fi or LTE available to us. So what this base station does is it collects all that data from the satellite and it talks to it, handshakes with the drone. And the drone says, hey, I think I'm right here in space. And then what ends up happening is the base station says, well, you think you're there, but actually you're over here. And it repositions the drone so that the drone is exactly where it believes it is. Well, we take that data and we output it. And so this is what it looks like. Again, I know this is going to be really hard to see, but this is what the Explorer data will look like. This is telling us that we are seeing a deviation of 1 centimeter or approximately 1 centimeter in accuracy. So that means that the application and the drone together are delivering us an accuracy that's about this big. It's a very tiny, tiny area. Is that important? Well, yeah, it kind of is important, especially when we're dealing with certain types of scenes. Just a moment ago, I showed you these two house sites. I want to show you where this kind of thing comes into play, where this kind of thing is critical, and then I'll wrap up and take your questions if you got some questions here. Let's see, get back to my home page. I might just have to log directly in here in just a moment. Okay. Down here, I'm going to share with you an accident scene. This is not a pleasant scene to look at. 4 people died in this accident. We're not going to focus on that, but I want to show you what accuracy means and why accuracy is critical. The police officer that shot this accident did not do so with any features or what we call controls. And so as a result, you can see the actual concrete barrier here, and then you can see the Google Earth version of the barrier here. I'm positive you can't read the deviation and measurement, but in this particular case, our map is 19.5 feet off of accuracy. That's feet. It's 19.5 feet off of being accurate. So it's way out of accuracy. Now, everything inside the image itself, in other words, everything that's in this rendered image is absolutely accurate to itself. It's just not accurate to the ground. So in other words, when we take that map and we lay it over top of Google Earth, it's not going to line up. But when we do measure certain things in the map, for example, here, we want to see how far the vehicle went from its last point of known impact to when it came to rest on its base. That was 44.45 feet that it traveled as it was going through its last rollover here. So what does that matter to us? Why do we care? Well, because that data allows us to determine, it allows us to use some scientific methodology to determine exactly how fast that vehicle was going when it began its rollover. So we know this vehicle was going 76 to 77 miles per hour when a front tire blew and the vehicle began its rollover, killing all 4 occupants of the vehicle. So we had a lot of information that was given to us there and we useful. Other things though that we can't see in this particular map that the highway department was interested in, this is a brand new highway. It had literally been open for 1 day when this fatal accident occurred. So the first question by the DOT was, wow, did we make a mistake? Are there some challenges in elevation and accuracy? So what we're going to do is we're going to apply a surface model to it. And when we turn on the surface model, we can see that there is less than 6 inches of deviation from the lowest point of the map, which is all the way over here by the bridge. So we can see it's pretty low right there. That's the lowest point in blue, to the highest point, which occurs right about the accident area. Well, there's only 6 inches in deviation. So this lets the Department of Transportation know that no, this accident did not have any contribution from the angle or the slope of the freeway as it rolled through there. So we're able to determine a lot of things from these kinds of maps, and capturing them is critical. There's a whole lot more. One of the questions that came up. What are the minimum computer specs that are needed to process the maps? It looks like Jennifer addressed that one already. If you're dealing with Pix4D React, you basically don't need any computer spec at all. If you're dealing with Pix4D Mapper, you're going to want to have a minimum of 32 gigabytes of RAM. I recommend 64 and having a good video RAM card. There's a whole lot more I can talk about. I assume that Jennifer delivered the the introduction to mapping guide here for y'all. I'm going to ask that you
Yes.
please not share that guide out with general public. We don't expect it to be publicly visible until shortly after ComUAV, but you're free to look through it. It'll help you understand some things that are here. What kind of questions can I answer for you about maps at all, if anything?
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. We're honored. You know?
Yes.
We all know how that is to be able to, trust people, right? Do you hear this, everybody? To
Yes.
trust, be professional and, and honor, Douglas and Jennifer's, time, experience, and share that with us. So thank you so much. That's big.
Yes.
Absolutely. Hey, I'm going to give you one last tip just because this comes up and came up a second ago in a private message here. How do you manage your maps and how do you store your maps? I'll real quickly tell you, whenever you're building a project in Pix4D, before you start running your map, create a folder for that project. And in that folder, you want to have two folders. You want to build a media folder. That's where all your pictures are going to go, is into the media folder. And then you need a project folder. And this is where all of your project and all of your renders and everything else are going to be pointed to in Pix4D or in Agisoft or in Leica Cyclone or in, it really doesn't matter what app you use. Use this methodology. Why? Because if you want to be able to pick that map up and take it to someone else and transport it, be able to show it at a trade show, et cetera, or show it on a different computer, those files have to be pre-packaged before you render your project and not after you render your project. So if there's one tip I can leave you with today, is to make sure that you create a folder for your project with a media and a project folder inside of that main folder. Then you can transport it, email it, et cetera, et cetera. Any other questions?
We do have some more questions that are popping up into the chat. I know Jennifer is monitoring them. I saw one pop up as far as commercial UAV and any mapping classes or anything that you may be offering for commercial UAV.
We don't have a specific mapping class yet. I don't believe. Jennifer, you are the producers of ComUAV. Have they logged me in for mapping class yet, or do you know?
No, so there's nothing specific for training that way. They've moved over to panels mostly at Commercial UAV Expo. So there'll be lots of panels that you can sit in on and learn that way. What I can offer you, and I've just popped it into the chat, is that we are doing a free demonstration. I believe it's Wednesday night on our night UAV CSI. So it is mapping at night, and we'll go over the
I'll be
launch
there. I signed
of-
up. That was like the first thing I signed up for.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm totally excited.
Yeah, so we'll kind of walk through the process at night and put the data into Pix4D React right on site and push the data through the process, and you'll actually see the report from that. So that's
And Jen,
definitely
can you
something
also
different.
talk to us just since we have you on here and a lot of us are going to the conference. Yay! Could you also just kind of give us a little shout out about the 7-hour course? Because I'm definitely, I know a couple of us are as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's our night UAV flight workshop. It's 3.5 hours of theory. So we'll actually be in a classroom where we'll walk you through some of the challenges of night flight with drones, walk you through actually some of the physical issues that you have kind of with your site. And then we'll take you into the field and we'll actually fly some drones so you can actually see what parallax is like at night with an instructor by your side. So the first time you're flying at night will help keep it safe.
Yeah.
And what day is
taking
that?
the course. Any comment, Linda, on the night flight course you've attended?
I've done it, and I've also helped be a visual observer for how far, and it's remarkable what happens if you've never flown at night and don't understand the perspectives. It's very eye-opening.
Since we're talking to Linda, I'll also mention really quickly to everyone on the call, this beautiful background from roughly 6 a.m. in the morning was captured by none other than Linda Quackenboss, working on a very large construction site for a warehouse area. So this thing behind me here came from Linda. You may have to look closely, but Linda was able to get authorization to fly within about 500 feet of an active runway. So she's flying this mission right next to an airport. Pretty exciting stuff. So we're very grateful to Linda for allowing us to use this image here. Any other
That's
questions?
how
Always a
women who
pleasure.
fly drones roll, right, Linda?
Sorry?
Rough is that woman.
Yeah.
Any other questions about mapping I can answer before we wrap up my portion of the call here?
I have one that I'd like to kind of address. What are some of the most common hurdles that you overcome when you're trying to set up your mapping project or getting out there and mapping?
Well, Des, it's a good question, and the answer is a little bit snobbish. We don't have problems planning our missions, just simply because we've been doing it for so long. It becomes, it's part of your DNA, you know, it's what you do. But the biggest challenges most people will run into is, A, the time of day that Linda shot that picture, for example, really bad time to map. Not only because it's kind of dark, but it's also because the sun is rising. So if you're going to be shooting any area of any size, you're going to have shadows that will shift through your map. So in other words, you really want to set up your mapping missions to run between 10 a.m. and about 2 p.m. inside that window area. That's one thing you want to look at. Another thing is know the wind capabilities of the drone. So with the Phantom 4, I'll map in winds of up to about 20, 22 miles per hour, not even think twice about it because the aircraft will manage it. With the Autel Evo2, I'll fly that in up to 35 mile an hour winds because it has a better stabilization system. It's a little more massive. If you've got a Matrice, you could go into even slightly higher winds from what that is. Another thing we want to look for is look for overcast days versus bright sunny days. Overcast, the clouds create diffusion, and that smooths out shadows on the earth. That's a really great way to work. Also, if you're mapping, you're going to want to own a tool called Luminar. Luminar is made by Skyloom. It's fairly inexpensive. Jennifer might know the price. I don't recall off the top of my head. $99, something like that.
I don't know, but I'm going to their website right now for you.
Thank you. Why Luminar? Why would I recommend Luminar? Well, sometimes our pictures don't come out with great quality, or maybe for some reason you are capturing in a 10-bit mode with your maps and you don't have a really great color in the map and your client wants bright color. So in Luminar, we can do what is called batch processing. We can literally dump in 3,000 pictures, go get a cup of coffee and maybe a sandwich, come back, and it will have reprocessed all 3,000 pictures, and most importantly, and keep the metadata intact. Whenever you use Lightroom, whenever you use Photoshop, your metadata is stripped out, it gets thrown away. That doesn't happen with Luminar. That metadata is what allows you to make a map. That's the information about the lat-long, the latitude, longitudinal location of the aircraft, and the altitude at which the aircraft was flown, and the information about what kind of lens was being used so that the application can ortho-rectify those curved images that we talked about at the very beginning. So those are the things that you really want to kind of look out for. Is time of day, wind, and what about post-color processing? If you can manage the time frame for post-color processing, that is a superior workflow, but it takes longer, which means you need to charge more. But at the end of the day, I think these are the biggest tips I can give you, aside from the one I gave you about crabbing into the wind. If you can kind of fly in those time windows, fly in those winds, crab in high winds, you're generally going to come out with good maps. The only other thing I guess I'll share with you is make sure that your overlaps are high enough. Photo processing tools like Agisoft, Leica, Pix4D, they love lots of pixels over target. And in fact, for those of you who are just kind of getting into the side of it, check out Pix4D. It's a great tool. It's the one everybody talks about. But there are also tools like Leica Infinity, which is a little less spendy. It can do a little more, it can do a little less because it's got modules you can buy. You might look at other software packages. So Kukarenkin, the folks who are sponsoring this piece for me today, the people who are listed in the map over this side of my shoulder here, they've got all the Leica software. And if you're going to be at ComUAV, you might have opportunity to see how the Leica software works. It's a little faster than Pix4D. I think that's all the best tips I can give you. Anything else?
Fantastic tips. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, great information. Like I said, I don't know how you're going to pack all that into a short little session that we have here,
Right.
because I know mapping is a deep subject.
My pleasure.
Pretty cool that you have already posted about some of the workshops that you have coming up. People, if you're going to commercial UAV, definitely want to check them out. And so we're excited that we are going to be there to see you. Woohoo!
Look forward to
I have
see you.
I have another question about the night class, because obviously I'm very interested in, you know, how much is that used? Like, you know, how much is it used? Like, do you guys get called out a lot? Does it give you more opportunities? Are there a lot of people that do night operations? Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Jennifer, I'll take the first part of that really quickly.
Yeah.
So if you're flying, for example, LiDAR, or LiDAR is ever going to be your goal, you must know how to fly at night, because there are sometimes with LiDAR, that's the only time you can fly. It is at night. So that's a piece of it. The other piece of it is you want the ability to extend your flight. Now, it is true that the FAA has changed up requirements for night flight as of the 21st of April this year. However, we've already seen a few night flight incidents because people don't understand the rules, they don't understand the processes, they don't understand the severe impacts of night vision and how your blind spots, et cetera, change at night. So the night flight course gives you information for all of that. It also helps you plan to be safer and plan your safety mechanism, or work with your safety management system, your SMS, with a deep focus on CRM, or crew resource management, as well. Jennifer, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think really just comes down to having another tool in your toolbox, right? And being able to extend your offerings. Is it used? Absolutely. Is it always at the top of the list? Probably not. But there are times where you want to have the confidence that you can say, yeah, I can offer this extended service that goes into evening hours. And, you know, being able to do that safely, and knowing how to best manage the risk for night operations, which, you know, there's definitely more risk associated with night flight, kind of gives you that additional confidence of being able to offer that up. So yeah, I certainly do believe that it's a great tool to add into your toolkit.
Okay, one more question.
Sure.
Interested. And I know several other people are, and you guys, you know, you've mentioned night flight before, you've talked about it, and you have like 8 visual observers. But what about, you know, the little companies? I'm not going to say little companies, but what about the pilots? It's, you know, me and one other person that I would go out and do night flight with. So I get somebody that's a certified pilot, or somebody that we train with. You know, what are the capabilities of 2 people assisting in a night flight, like, or performing a night flight? Is that a possibility?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. You do not have to have 7 visual observers. Keep in
Okay,
mind,
that's what I wanted to know.
keep in mind, when we talk
So
about having
big,
7
right?
visual observers, that is on the
Big
corner of one of
project.
the busiest intersections
Okay.
in the world. That's in
Okay.
Tropicana and Las Vegas Strip, where you literally have 10,000 people an hour going by.
Okay.
I do recommend that everyone have a VO for all kinds of night flight. There's a lot of stressors. And so, you know, if you can get your best friend, your partner, your husband, your girlfriend, you know, whatever, wife, whatever it might be, have someone else there that can assist you, brief them on what they should be doing. We actually have a night flight course that we teach, I mean, a VO course we teach as well. But at the end of the day, we want that visual observer to know what they're looking for, what they're looking at, and help you, the pilot, be able to avoid the target or not hit the target because it's difficult to see things in the dark. But yes, an individual can go out and do night flight, but it is highly, highly recommended that you do have at least 1 VO to work with you. But you certainly don't need to have 7 in most cases.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. And then last but not least, on behalf of my colleagues, I would like to ask, what are some of the ways that night flight is used? Because I don't know anything about night flight besides what I've met with you guys. So where would I get called out on a night flight?
Jennifer, you want that, or you want me to take it?
Well, you know, yes, I'll start it. You can finish it off. For the most part, you know, beauty shots, right? So think about real estate where, you know, you want kind of that post sunset view. So you're not necessarily at night or like dark night, but you're past sunset. There's lots and lots of cinematography type of situations where you might be trying to tell a story at night, and you need to be able to offer those in front. And then obviously with, you know, us doing the night CSI demonstration, mapping forensic scenes at night is obviously a big deal because crime doesn't necessarily happen always in daylight. So we need to be able to capture that information when it happens. Douglas, any other options?
Well, the only other piece that's there is, you know, sometimes, especially when we're doing work for, you know, shopping centers, some of these kinds of things, we have to fly at night. That's really our only choice because of pedestrians and so forth that are going to be out there. And as I mentioned, if you're going to be flying with LiDAR, LiDAR works really, really well at night because we've reduced the amount of reflective surfaces. We've reduced civilians being on the number of civilians on our scene. So these are some points that we fly at night. And then last but not least, I guess if I were to give you anything about night flight, it's because we can. You know, the FAA they give us an opportunity. We should take the responsibility to absorb and enjoy that opportunity as best we can. There's some really wonderful, exciting things that happen at night outside of the commercial or the enterprise side of what we're doing. Sure, law enforcement, they have to fly at night. Most crime occurs after dark. And, you know, again, LiDAR and a few other tools out there, like night flight comes into place, but there's also those romantic shots. Maybe you've got a wedding that's coming up and you're working on that wedding and you want to be able to shoot the wedding grounds or shoot fireworks at the wedding or shoot fireworks on the 4th of July, you know, whatever that you want to take video of or photos of. It happens at night. So enjoy the opportunity.
Yeah, great. Thank you for building that value, because I wasn't, you know, I was like, is this something that I want to invest? It's not so much, I mean, the price is just, to me, compared to so many other things, the price is just really inexpensive. But is it going to be worth, is it my time, you know, to come back and then be able to, you know, then be able to duplicate it in the Philadelphia area? And that was what my big concern is that where I want to spend my time? And I'm going to tell you, that's where I want to spend my time. Thank you so much. Love it.
Great, look forward to it.
Yep.
I just thought of another one too.
Okay.
Thermal inspections at night,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Oh, yes. How can I
So if you're
forget?
thinking like a
Yes.
roof, or you're looking for leakage on something, thermal inspections at night.
That's
Yeah,
huge.
don't even know why we missed those, but that's a huge one.
That is.
If you got a thermal camera, ladies, I'm going to share with you that if you have a thermal camera, especially a radiometric camera, the market, especially as we start going into fall, is huge for you to get involved in roof energy inspections. Where are people losing heat? Where are they losing? Where are their air conditioners overheating? What about it in the wintertime? What their heat loss might look like? So think about partnering with a home insulation company or a roofing company. And the thermal flights generally take place at night. So it's a way to really put some serious coin in your pocket if that's what you'd like to do.
Do you guys actually sell the that Autel that you were talking about that has the hood on it? What was it called?
The RTK, yeah.
RTK, yeah, exactly.
Sundance Media Group does not sell it, but Cooper Rankin does. So our partner, Cooper Rankin, and I can send that link over to you.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah,
That was awesome, thank you.
Sheila had a
Yeah.
question there. Enterprise dual resolution is not great for flying closer. Appears to be best practice. Sheila, I guess I need you to qualify your question. Are you talking about the thermal camera resolution? Or are you talking about the RGB camera resolution? Because they're very different things. The thermal resolution. Actually, the thermal resolution of the Enterprise Dual is the highest resolution available to civilians today. You will not find any drone with better resolution than the Autel Evo2. It's a FLIR boson imager, 645/12 at 30 hertz refresh rate. There is nothing better available to the civilian market today. So, but it is, because it's a 645/12, it's a low resolution camera. Remember, it's thermal, not RGB. So with thermal, yes, we fly lower and we fly slower. So when you're capturing thermal, low and slow is the key.
Is there a thermal imaging drone that you recommend that's a great entry level if you don't have a huge, you know, double-digit budget?
Yeah, so well, none of them are really double-digit budgets. You can get into the Parrot. You can get into the Parrot Anafi thermal for, I believe it's around 3,000. DJI's got a Mavic with a thermal, and you know, some people are really impressed with it. It actually is kind of junky, but that's, you know, depends on what you're. Some of us like champagne, and some of us are very happy with homebrew.
Right.
You know, anyway, the Autel with radiometric, with temperature measurement, that comes into focus at about $8,000. And if you want the American camera on that, you can get into that for 10,000. So right at that double-digit point.
Right. Yeah, I was at a thing and I was at an event, and then I was flying, you know, the thermal imaging camera with John McBride, and that thing was like, you know, double digits and then some. So that's why I wasn't quite sure, you know, about the thermal. And a lot of people that are just entering into the drone world and you know, finding their niche. And so this is amazing information. So thank you so much.
You bet. So, and Jennifer put up a point there. If you want to get into thermal, find a gently used drone. Look, if you're going to get into thermal, get into thermal.
Yes.
Pick up a camera
Okay.
that's 645, 12, 30 hertz, regardless of whether it's Parrot doesn't make one at that level, but whether it's a DJI, whether it's an AEE, whether it's an Autel, an Auterion, one of these. Why do I say that? Because you're going to spend a lot of money for a low resolution thermal, and you're going to learn a little bit with it. But to really learn how all of this works, there's much more involved in thermal than there is to RGB. Understanding angles and palettes and emissivity and absorptivity and reflectivity, all of these things is critical. Well, you might as well just get the real deal to start with, learn with the real deal, because otherwise you're going to be stuck with a $3,000 camera that nobody's going to buy for more than $700 or $800. Where if you spent that $7,000 investment, you now have a functional, working, revenue generating tool. That's my opinion.
Yep, absolutely. Better return on your investment.
Much.
Right. And get the training involved. There's a
Yes.
whole series of trainings behind it. So
We
awesome.
do have a thermal course. Maybe Jennifer can set it up with you two to do an entry into thermal course. We can.
Well,
certainly-
there we go.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
The next one, huh?
That's right. Love
Love
it. Love it.
All right. Well, here we are, spot on 10 o'clock. How perfect is that?
Well
And
done.
so much good information.
So much for 25 minutes,
Amazing. Yeah,
Douglas. We just can't get out of 25 minutes
I
with you.
just
It's like,
knew it.
Sorry, I talk a lot.
I need to ask these questions. We got the UAV coming up. We need to let folks know that, where, it's really important when you're a business owner, and, I'm always looking is what is my return on investment? It's not how much it costs, it's how much the return on the investment's going to be. You don't just want to go out and sign up for something or buy something and not understand what's going on behind it. So we want you to be successful. So definitely, Jennifer and Douglas, bring that information and that success that can really, they just make it easy to learn. I love it.
Yes.
Yes, they
Speaking of
do.
Jim,
Agreed.
Yep.
speaking of
Thank
Jim,
you.
he's going to be a spotlight speaker coming up too.
Nice.
Fantastic.
How's that for a segue, right?
Nice.
And you didn't even know it.
Yeah. And then also, Desi, can you just mention like what's going to be happening while we're at the convention?
So we are getting it all set up. We have Luis and Kim James are
James.
going to be hosting our coffee connection, and we, as in Desi and Kim, will be at the commercial UAV. And that's the week that Jim is going to be our spotlight speaker. So we've got this whole fun thing going on.
Nice.
It is
What a
going to be
dimension.
so cool. I am so excited. And then just seeing everybody there, I am
Yes.
it's long overdue for me.
Absolutely.
Cannot
For
wait.
everybody, I think. For
Yeah.
everybody. Yep.
So-
And how awesome that we have this coffee connection, because all of us have met each other on this coffee connection, which, it's building the industry, because now all of us are super excited to go and meet each other, just the power of networking and connecting. Nobody, no matter what happens, nobody's going to take that away from us in America. We love to connect, we love to co-create, we love to collaborate, and that's our story, and we're sticking to it. And if we can't jump over it, we'll go around it. And if we can't go around it, we'll fall under it, but nobody's going to stop us, right? Ain't no
Right.
now.
All right. Well, we are now past 10 o'clock. So looking forward to next week. We love this meeting every week. So it's so good to see everybody. And we will see you next week. And then we may see you in person the week after.
That's right. Thank you so
Right.
much, Douglas and Jennifer. And
Yes.
thank you, everybody, for all the amazing questions that they were able to answer and bring more value. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you.
Have a great week,
Thanks,
everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great
Bye.
week.
Get out
Bye.
and fly. Get out and fly.
That kind of wraps it up.